All right, guys, we are going to be finished with Genesis finally 50 chapters. Today, we're going to be doing 48, 49, and 50. And I think that's it for Genesis. And then we'll go into Exodus, but it's been a lot of names, in this reading so far, but it is what it is. So let's start. So let's see where we left off. Oh yes, yeah, so Joseph was getting all the land because a famine came, so people were started coming to him to ask him for like food and everything, and he was like, "All right, I'll give you your food if you give me your cattle." So they took the cattle and gave him all food, and then they came back in like, "We don't have nothing but our land." So these farmers like, "All right, give me your land. I'll give you some food to sustain you," and pretty much that's where we left off. And then Joseph's dad comes out to visit him, and then he knows he's going to be dying, so he tells him to bury him in Goshen. And that's where we left off at, where Joseph is now back with his father. His father's getting ready to die in Egypt, and there we are. So, all right, so Jacob/Israel blesses Ephraim and Manasseh. So we're on chapter 48. Sometime after this, Joseph was told, "Your father is weaker." So he set out with his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. I think that's how you say Ephraim, I think. One second. Okay. Yeah, Ephraim. When Jacob was told, "Your son Joseph has come to you," Israel summoned his strength and sat up in bed. Jacob said to Joseph, "God Almighty appeared to me at Luz in the land of Canaan and blessed me. He said to me, 'I will make you fruitful and numerous. I will make many nations come from you, and I will give you this land as a permanent possession to your future descendants. Your two sons born to you in the land of Egypt before I came to you in Egypt are now mine, Ephraim and Manasseh. Before belonged to me just before Reuben and Simon do. Children born to you after them will be yours and will be recorded under the names of their brothers with regard to the inheritance. When I was returning from Padan, to my sorrow, Rachel died along the way, some distance from Ephrath in the land of Canaan. I buried her there along the way to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. When Israel saw Joseph's son, he said, 'Who are these?' And Joseph said to his father, 'They are my sons God has given me here.' So Israel said, 'Bring them to me, and I will bless them.' Now his eyesight was poor because of old age. He could hardly see. Joseph brought them to him, and he kissed them and embraced them. Israel said to Joseph, 'I never expected to see your face again, but now God has even let me see your offspring.' Then Joseph took them from his father's knees and bowed with his face to the ground." We're on verse 13 now. Then Joseph took them both with his right hand, Ephraim toward Israel's left, and with his left hand Manasseh towards Israel's right, and brought them to Israel. But Israel stretched out his right hand and put it on the head of Ephraim the younger, and crossing his hands, put it on Manasseh's head, although Manasseh was his firstborn. Then he blessed Joseph and said, "The God before whom my fathers Abraham and Isaac walked, the God who has been my shepherd all of my life to this day, the angel who has redeemed me from all harm, may he bless these boys, and may they be called by my name and the names of my fathers Abraham and Isaac, and many that grow to be numerous within the land." When Joseph saw that his father had placed his right hand on Ephraim's head, he thought it was a mistake, and he took his father's hand to move it from Ephraim's head to Manasseh's. Joseph said to his father, "Not that way, my father. This one is the firstborn. Put your right hand on his head." But his father refused and said, "I know, my son, I know. He too will become a tribe, and he too will be great. Nevertheless, his younger brother will be greater than he, and his offspring will become a populous nation." So he blessed them that day, putting Ephraim before Manasseh. And when he said, the nation Israel will invoke blessings by you, saying, "May God make you like Ephraim and Manasseh." Israel said to Joseph, "Look, I'm about to die, but God will be with you and will bring you back to the land of your fathers. Over and above what I am giving your brothers, I am giving you the one mountain slope that I took from the Amorites with my sword and bow." Chapter 49. Jacob's last words. Then Jacob called his sons and said, "Gather around, I will tell you what will happen to you in the days to come. Come together and listen, sons of Jacob. Listen to your father Israel. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my strength, and the first fruits of my fertility, excelling in prominence, excelling in power. Turbulent as water, you will not excel, because you got into your father's bed and you defiled it. He got into my bed. Simon and Levi are brothers. Their knives are vicious weapons. May I never enter their council. May I never join their assembly, for in their anger they kill men, and on a whim they hamstring oxen. Their anger is cursed, for it is strong, and their fury, for it is cruel. I will disperse them throughout Jacob and scatter them throughout Israel. Judah, your brothers will praise you. Your hand will be on the necks of your enemies. Your father's son will bow down to you. Judah is a young lion, my son. You return from the kill. He crouches, he lies down like a lion or a lioness. Who dares to rouse him? The scepter will not depart from Judah, or the staff from between his feet, until he whose right it is comes, and the obedience of the peoples belong to him. He ties his donkey to a vine, and the colt of his donkey to the choice vine. He washes his clothes in wine, and his robes of the blood of grapes. His eyes are darker than wine, and his teeth are whiter than milk. Zebulun, you will live by the seashore, and will be a harbor for ships, and his territory will sit next to Sidon. Issachar is a strong donkey, lying down between the saddlebags. He saw that his resting place was good, and the land was pleasant, so he leaned on his shoulders to bear a load and become a forced laborer. Dan will judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Dan will be a snake by the road, a viper beside the path that bites the horse's heels so that the riders fall back. I wait for your salvation, Lord. Gad will be attacked by raiders, but he will attack their heels. Asher's food will be rich, and he will produce royal delicacies. Naphtali is a doe set free that bears fruitful fawns. Joseph is a fruitful vine beside a spring, its branches. Climb over the wall. The archers attacked him, shot at him, and were hostile toward him. Yet his bow remained steady, and his strong arms were made agile by the hands of the mighty one of Jacob. By the name of the shepherd, the rock of Israel, by the God of your father who helps you, and by the Almighty who blesses you with blessings of the heavens above, blessings of the deep that lies below, the blessings of the breast of the womb. The blessings of your father excel the blessings of my ancestors, and the bounty of the ancient hills. May they rest on the head of Joseph, on the bow of the prince of his brothers. Benjamin is a wolf. He tears his prey, and in the morning he devours the prey, and in the evening he divides the plunder. These are the tribes of Israel, 12 in all, and this is what their father said to them. He blessed them, and he blessed each one of them with a suitable blessing. Verse 29. Then he commanded them, I am about to be gathered by my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cave of the field of Ephron the Hethite. The cave is in the field of Machpelah, near Mamre, in the land of Canaan. This is the field Abraham purchased from Ephron the Hethite as a burial property. Abraham and his wife Sarah are buried there. Isaac and his wife Rebekah are buried there. And I buried Leah there. The field and the cave in it were purchased from the Hethites. When Jacob had finished giving his charges to his sons, he drew his feet into the bed, took his last breath, and was gathered to his people. Then Joseph, chapter 50 now, last chapter. One second. Okay, yeah. When Joseph, leaning over his father's face, wept and kissed him, he commanded his servants, who were physicians, to embalm his father. So they embalmed Israel. They took 40 days to complete this, for embalming takes that long, and the Egyptians mourned for him 70 days. When the days of the mourning were over, Joseph said to Pharaoh's household, "If I have found favor with you, please tell Pharaoh that my father made me take an oath, saying, I am about to die. You must bury me there in the tomb that I made for myself in the land of Canaan. Now, let me go and bury my father. Then I will return." So Pharaoh said, "Go and bury your father in keeping with your oath." Then Joseph went to bury his father, and all Pharaoh's servants and the elders of his household and the elders of the land of Egypt went with him, along with all of Joseph's family, his brother, and his father's family. Only their dependents, their flocks, and their herds were left in the land of Goshen. Horses and chariots went up with him. It was a very impressive procession. When they reached the threshing floor of Atad, which is across the Jordan, they lamented and wept loudly, and Joseph mourned 7 days for his father. Then the Canaanite inhabitants of the land saw that the morning at the threshing floor of Atad, and they said, "This is a solemn mourning on the part of Egyptians. Therefore, this place is named Abel Mizraim. It is across the Jordan." So Jacob's son did for him what he had commanded them. They carried him to the land of Canaan and buried him in a cave in Machpelah, in the field near Mamre, which Abraham had purchased as a burial property for Ephron the Hethite, from Ephron the Hethite. After Joseph buried his father, he returned to Egypt with his brothers and all who had gone with him to bury his father. When Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said one to another, "If Joseph is holding a grudge against us, he will certainly repay us for all the suffering we caused him." So they sent the message to Joseph, "Before he died, your father gave us a command. Say this to Joseph: please forgive your brother's transgression and their sin, their suffering they caused you. Therefore, please forgive the transgression of your servants of the God of your father." Joseph wept when their message came to him. His brothers also came to him and bowed down before them and said, "We are your slaves." Joseph said to them, "Don't be afraid. I am in the place of God. You planned evil against me. God planned it for good to bring about the present result, the survival of many people. Therefore, don't be afraid. I will take care of you and your children." And he comforted them and spoke kindly to them. Joseph and his father's family remained in Egypt. Joseph lived to 110 years old. He saw Ephraim's son to the third generation. His sons of Manasseh's, the sons of Manasseh's son, Machir, were recognized by Joseph. Joseph said to his brothers, "I am about to die, but God will certainly come to your aid, and bring you from this land to the land that he swore to give to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob." So Joseph made the sons of Israel take an oath. "When God comes to your aid, you are to carry my bones up there." Joseph died at the age of 110. They embalmed him and placed him in a coffin in Egypt. Closing for Genesis. There was a lot in Genesis. Creation, Adam and Eve sinning, Noah and the ark, Abraham, Isaac, Abraham giving his son to God, Lot getting slept with by his daughters, the Sodom and Gomorrah, all these things. The 12 tribes of Israel were created, Joseph being sold into slavery. I mean, it's crazy. People were crazy back then, and people are still crazy now. You would think after having the word that we wouldn't be as crazy, but it is what it is. All right, next we're going to be doing Exodus, so we're on it.